I love that. What fun. Whimsy, are you there? Where did you go? You disappeared off the screen. Are we on the air right now? I guess we are. Well, I'm not sure where Whimsy went. I think her Wi-Fi went out or something. Hopefully she's going to be right back. Well, it's certainly good to see everybody. Whimsy, where are you? Anyway, that is some fun music we were listening to. I just wish I could get my cat to play the toilet lid like that. Sasha's down here. Maybe she'll come up and join us in just a moment. Till Whimsy gets back, I'm going to say hi to some people here. I see that we have... Oh, there you are, Whimsy.
I got so excited. I went to edit it out and then I knocked myself out.
Do you know, there was a time where that would have freaked me out. I'm on the air by myself. What do I do?
You know everyone.
Oh, no, I was just about to name some of the wonderful people out there, do that romper room thing we do with the magic mirror, but I guess we can do that in a moment. How are you doing, my dear friend?
I missed you so much. I had how many weeks without you? It was
2 weeks.
Difficult. 2 weeks because, of course, you are contracted. You get 2 weeks off for Christmas. And what's the other one we give you off? New Year's.
Is that what it is? Yeah, Christmas and New Year's.
Yes, your contract is 30.
And I use my time constructively. I've been doing a lot of artwork for people. Christmas Eve day. Was it Christmas Eve? That's when we normally would have done a show?
Right. But I mean, I always give you 2 weeks off for the holidays.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's just weird that this year it fell that way.
Yeah, it sure did. I was baking a carrot cake.
I know you always do that. You always do a carrot cake.
Yeah, I think I gave you my carrot cake once, didn't I? When you lived in LA?
This much piece he gave me. This much piece. It was
like
all I gave you. I felt like Anne Frank. Felt like Anne Frank, where they were like slicing with a freaking razor blade. What the hell?
Okay, next time you're in LA.
Barely a nibble.
Next time you're in LA, I am going to bake another carrot cake. And I'm going to cut off the biggest damn piece.
It was the most delicious. It was, by the way, it was the most delicious carrot cake I've ever eaten.
That's what people tell me.
Tiniest piece, because you gave it to like 20-something people.
Well, I did. I had to give it to a lot. I cut it up into pieces to give as gifts to people at work. And that cake it's not infinite. It only spreads so far. But I will make a nice big cake again just for you. How's that?
Sounds good. Well, who's with us today? Did you?
Well, we have with us today LMA Bellinger.
Hello.
Asking artwork. Well, yeah, I have some artwork I'll show later. Thank you for asking. And we have our author later today, Richmond Burton, is an artist himself. We're going to talk about that. But of course, we have our wonderful Wendy here, who made your gorgeous hat.
She did.
That hat that suits you so well. And we have Teresa, and we have Connie, and here's a great name, Never Too Late to Dream.
Very true.
Love that. And yes, that is very true. In fact, it was the wonderful Jimmy Carter. We're going to talk about him later today, but he said, you only grow old when your dreams die. I always remembered that. But we have Desiree and Tu Anderson. Let's see. Pamela is here. Scrolling through the names here, and we got some great people with us. Anyway, you were going to say
we always get good people here. So, as many people know, we have had a president laid to rest. Now, was he the 38th? I mean,
39th.
He was
39th.
I knew I was close.
Well, the reason I know that is because they said that there was a gun salute to him today. I think it was rifles. They fired 39 shots in honor of him being the 39th president.
So every year, I mean, like every time they're going to give us more shots. So like eventually we'll be there all night. Is that how this is going to go?
Well, let's see, Donald. I'm not going to say anything more than, Donald Trump's going to have 47. I'm not going to go further with that.
Well, see, I don't believe in any of that. I mean, I think that my feeling is, I think that they're going to, take him out. But so this was the scene in the rotunda.
I watched some of the coverage today. I couldn't help but be moved. I loved President Carter. I remember as a kid when he was elected president. I still remember this moment, and I think it was live. I can't find any videotape of it, but it was the morning and he was elected, and he was in Plains, Georgia. And I remember my mother waking me up, Chuck, Jimmy Carter won. He won the election. And we turned on the TV, and Jimmy was talking to the crowd, and a great big tear ran down his face. It was so beautiful. And I've never seen any videotape of it. I remember that in my head that morning he was elected. And of course, I met Jimmy Carter. I've told that
I didn't know that.
very briefly. It was at a book signing about 33 years ago. I had to stand in line about 3 or 4 hours. You remember Century City Mall, and there used to be a bookstore called Bertano's, and he was doing a signing. And believe me, it was worth it. Three or 4 hours to stand in line to have the privilege of meeting that man was more than worth it. There were Secret Service people everywhere. You could tell because they were dressed in black and had their dark glasses on and their earpieces, and they were looking around at us and everything. But I finally got up to the table, and I had the privilege of looking right into that beautiful man's eyes, the deepest, clearest blue eyes.
Oh, yes.
And I just said, President Carter, I deeply admire you, and you have inspired me. And, that's kind of a thing he hears all the time, but he looked me directly in the eye, and he really listened to me very intently, and he spoke from the heart. I just said, thank you. That really means a lot to me. And, he really meant it. That really meant a lot to me.
What an amazing man.
I had that 1 minute with him, but that'll be with me the rest of my life. I touched greatness.
Yes.
And if I may say this quickly, you and I both have met many celebrities being in LA.
Sure.
Only twice have I ever encountered that kind of energy from a celebrity. One was Jimmy Carter. The other was Carol Burnett, where I felt that same, almost like a saintliness about them, like a purity, like you just knew you were in the presence of a great, great soul. Anyway, I want to not make this about Carol, but about Jimmy.
I'm sure you felt that way with Barbara Eden and Carol Burnett.
Well,
those are my two biggest influences, Barbara Eden and Carol Burnett.
Oh my gosh.
They really influenced me. Boy.
I know. I'm surprised about Barbara Eden. Did I ever show you my genie bottle?
You did, and somebody thought you had given it to me.
I love you, Whimsy, but I'm not parting with my
be that you'll never be that big of a fan. Okay, so something special is going on today at 6 o'clock. Chuck, do you want to tell our audience what it is?
The book Rolodex by author Richmond Burton, all about the art world during it takes place in 1990, doesn't it?
Yes, around
the era of Rolodex.
Yes, everything is kind of like post-Christmas energy or present, because actually it's Christmas it's Eastern Orthodox Christmas right now. I guess Putin was crying in church today.
Oh, he has a lot to cry over.
They were bringing in the Christmas, the Russian Orthodox Christmas. So it's still Christmas somewhere in the world, right? But I thought a lot about what I wanted to have for the Christmas book, and I thought a lot about you when I read this book. And I know that you usually lead the interviews. What did you think about this? I guess we're going to have him on at 6 o'clock tonight. But these are the people you fall in love with and have connections with.
Well, these people are basically my tribe. I was an art major at Virginia Commonwealth University. I have pursued professional art off and on over the decades since. Many of my dearest friends in the world are artists, actors, writers, musicians. This is my tribe.
Yes, I know these people. My self-esteem was so low, growing up, that I used to wish I could hang out with these.
I know what you mean.
Some of these people, you're like, why am I buying you coffee? And why am I hoping that you'll hang out with me?
Yes.
Like, I'm the one picking up the check. It's like my self-esteem this low. I liked this book a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's the great gift of any good book. It vicariously takes you into that world where you are there. You do know these people. You do know this scene. You're living it.
I do know this scene. I know this.
Yeah.
I've lived this. He's going to be on tonight at 6, and
Mhm.
so please stick around for that. So we'll all get to hang out with Richmond Burton, and of course he's going to be reading from his book. Great writer.
Yes.
I've said this before. I really love Joan Didion. I love that
Oh,
matter-of-fact way of writing. No wasted
Joan
words.
Didion.
And Richmond Burton is really that kind of a writer.
Yeah. Did you read The Year of Magical Thinking?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God, incredible! And she and her husband. Who was her husband? Equally famous. They wrote screenplays together, and anyway, I'm a great admirer also.
Yeah, so I really kind of connected with that. I like that kind of writing. Also, Tan, who wrote the Joy Luck Club.
Yes,
very simple to the
Tan.
and easy to read, right?
Oh, that's
nothing that gets you completely disoriented.
Yeah. Did you see the movie?
Which one?
The Joy Luck Club.
Yes, I did. I loved it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been cleaning and making chai teas, and so I have a little bit of dust on me. So I apologize for the
I was just saying before the show, I bet your home smells so nice with all of those herbs cooking.
I made a full container of what's called golden chai. Yeah. And so that it's all over. I ground the herbs, and so I apologize for the cough. Sometimes it's not an allergy or smoking or anything. It's just me having cardamom in my lungs. But you can see for those of you who want to know what I made, because people want to know what a golden chai. This is a great way to save money because you buy golden chai from Gaia Herbs. It's like $10.
Yeah.
But this will cost you like $1 or $2 if you can. So it's turmeric, cinnamon, cardamom, a lot of ginger.
I was going to say ginger. You mentioned that.
Cloves and anise. And fennel.
That's why I said it probably smells really good.
Yeah, so I ground it all up into a powder base. And then I add it to whatever tea I'm making. And it's a carminative, so it actually stimulates, heals your gut. And it's just a healthy chai. You can use almond milk or any kind of milk you like. And it just warms and heals the gut.
Yeah, and you have wonderful anti-inflammatories in there.
Yeah, the ginger and the
immune system things.
And the cardamom is really settling for this. Anyway, I made that, but it really set me off. So I apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer, and then we will blitz away and get to everybody's questions. We have a ton of questions that came in early. Everybody wanted to talk about, of course, people wanted to talk about Carter. People are very excited about the new book. We've been promoting it since last month. Many of you in the audience today hopefully have a copy, or you've hopefully ordered the book. We're going to be talking about that later in the show. Questions that people wanted to talk about. They wanted to talk about the civil war that's happening, the votes being codified January 6th. They wanted to talk about what's going on with Putin and the fact that I guess he lost an entire brigade yesterday.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And a little later in the show, if we have time, we're talking about the secret world of animals. The secret world of animals, what goes on in their minds. And now they're finding out that animals not only can connect with humans in interesting ways, but now they're finding out ways to communicate with animals through music.
Yes.
And they're monitoring how animals respond to music. So if we have a little bit of time, we're going to get into the conversation about the sentience, the intelligence of animals, and how they respond to human art, participate in art, and specifically music. So that's the show today. Sound like fun, Chuck?
Sounds like a lot of fun. And Sasha concurs. She keeps wanting to be on the show, and then she goes, "No, I changed my mind. I want off the show now." So
all right. Without further ado. Without further ado, let's go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer, and then we will blitz away. Okay. Please be sure to send us all of your questions. I don't see is our floor director here? Is Joel here? I don't think he is, right? I don't think we have a floor director today. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. So we know the score. So let's go. Let's do the impasse prayer.
Okay.
Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively as a community, we say, Amen.
Amen. I'm trying to find my oracle cards here. This is embarrassing. We're on live. I had them here, and
okay.
I may have to grab another set of cards. Oh, here they are. Okay.
It's all right. You got time. So the first thing that people are talking about is, as you know, a lot of people are very upset. It was the anniversary of the of January 6th was yesterday. I don't know. Were you thinking about it yesterday? Because 4 years ago on January 6th, we had that particularly awful, unpleasant situation. And we thought that it was going to be the end of Donald Trump, but unfortunately it wasn't. So we want to talk a little bit about, as we face another anniversary of January 6th, and what happened yesterday.
Where do we even start with this one? Because, I was one of those people watching it live. Let's see, 4 years ago was, of course, the pandemic, the lockdown. We were home. So I think many of us were watching it on television. It felt like a movie. It felt surrealistic. It didn't feel like this can't possibly be happening. But I think we all assumed that there was going to be reckoning. There was going to be justice. I mean, my God, when they were going to hang the vice president in the gallows on the steps in front of the Capitol, and I'm sure they were going after Nancy Pelosi also.
Right.
And they were all in there hiding under desks and things while, all of this chaos was going on, and Trump supposedly at home watching it at the White House at home, watching it on televisions, taking no action. To be here 4 years later and to see how there has not been proper reckoning, there has not been justice, to see the way the MAGA Republicans have reinvented it to the point where Trump could actually say, "Oh, that was a day of love." It's disheartening.
Yeah. So I guess, did you see, there was no riots. Nobody made a big deal. It wasn't this big drama that everybody said it was going to be. I think people thought that there was going to be rioting in the streets, that it was not going to happen. But that's kind of not at all what happened. I mean, nobody even, it's like nobody even changed their schedules or anything. It was, did you watch it when it happened?
Yeah, I was just saying, I was watching it live.
No. I mean, yesterday.
Yesterday, no, I did not watch that. Maybe you can enlighten me more on that.
Well, I mean, the great irony is that it was Harris that had to codify it, count the votes.
Oh, yes, that I watched. That I saw that part on the news.
It's kind of like overseeing your husband's second marriage, right?
Yeah.
It must feel the same way.
My heart went out to her. For the most part, she has put on a very brave front since her loss, whenever she has made a few public appearances. But maybe I was just reading more into it, but I saw a lot of sorrow in her eyes. She was brave, the stiff upper lip, being brave, doing her duty, but I could see sorrow. That was a bitter moment for her.
Yeah, I think she handled it really well.
With great class and dignity.
Right. Want to give a shout out to Ginny Basigalupi. Hi, Ginny.
Hey, Ginny.
Good to see you. Ginny is an elders, empath, and a healer. Welcome, Ginny.
Welcome.
Ginny, make sure you show up to class. Friday, we're doing practice runs. If you guys just want to have practice time, Friday we're having practice time before we start the next quarter. Just to let you guys know. Ginny, try and be there. So many people, they sign up and then they don't show up for class. It's a shame. So we teach remote viewing every Friday. This Friday we couldn't. I guess we had a week off. for the holidays. But yeah, this Friday we'll be back again, class, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 9 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. Just go to members live video and learn how to remote view. It's so much fun.
And I can attest to the fact that you are a gifted and heartfelt teacher.
Oh, thank
You taught me. You took an imbecile like me.
Oh, that's right. Well, your certificate. He's a physician's assistant.
But I
helped him with his finals.
Oh, you went the extra distance.
Come on, you only got 2 wrong or something.
Well, yes, but that was because
he got like a 98 on his final.
Because I had an extraordinary teacher.
No, I think
extraordinary. No, it's just the truth. And you knew how to approach my mindset, an artist's mind, and you said, think of this as an art and not a science. That's all I needed to hear. And you said to me, learning should be fun.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah. All right. So I guess the main question that people want us to throw about was on the January 6th is, how you see it's projecting onward. Do you see Trump actually getting in? Because I think he will. Other people think he goes crazy and he's trying to get out of it. Like he's trying to get me out of this damn thing. He's paid off. It looks like his debts were most likely paid off by Trump and Thiel. So if I were him, I'd want to, if Vance is going to pardon him for state or federal, and if he's not going to be charged for state, if I were him, I would go play golf. Just as promise me you're going to get me off the federal, I'm going to go play golf.
Well, let me ask you though, he can't be pardoned for state offenses.
Yeah, but they already said that he's not going to prison for the 34.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Who cares?
That's true.
And,
it's basically a slap on the wrist.
And they've stopped Fannie Willis. They got rid of her, so that's shut down. And Florida's going nowhere. So why? He's going to have a temper tantrum for a month and then leave. Let's take a look. I'm curious about his cards.
It just blows me away. 34 felony convictions, and he's going to get off with a slap on the wrist. It'll be a stain on his presidency, but I don't think he cares. I don't think his followers care, unfortunately.
I'm just looking at my mouth, and I see I had a sesame seed.
Oh.
I'm doing everything homemade. I made homemade sesame seed crackers, and I just noticed that a sesame seed. I'm always watching.
Yeah, I'm just here looking at your teeth. They look great to me.
I just got rid of it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Trump, the inauguration day. What's going? How we feel? How's Trump's energy inauguration day?
Oh, his energy. Whoa. One card pop up here. I'll tell in a moment. Whoa, that flew out of the deck. Oh, boy. Well, that kind of blew me away. My technique basically is to let the cards fly out as I shuffle. Now, this card does not mean necessarily literal, as you know. The death card does not mean death, but your question was, how does he feel? Mm-hmm. I just get, he's miserable. He's miserable. He doesn't feel good physically. He doesn't feel good mentally. It's like, to him, it is like a death. It's a death to his old way of living. When he was the toast of New York, the big so-called billionaire real estate guy. He said himself, I miss my old life, death. And then these cards are a little more general, but I got boredom. I got exhaustion. And then new beginnings. Those were the cards that came out of the death. But when you heard me when that death card went out, I went, whoa. Yeah. But what do you?
He's not feeling. No, I get the same energy.
Yeah.
It's like I have to go to DC. I don't want to go to DC. He has said, why can't I work from Mar-a-Lago? Because there are security issues. But why can't I just stay here? It's my home. This is somebody who doesn't want to leave the front lawn. He's the old man let's get off my lawn.
No.
Has to go to DZ, packs up and leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I think Macron is showing up for his inauguration, because when I went forward into the energy of the world, a lot of world leaders are showing up for his inauguration that he invited, including Macron. Macron is likely going to be on the stage with him. Whoa. So there are world leaders showing up that are going to stand with him when he takes the oath.
Interesting.
He's in his mental confusion. This is his hope and fear. I worry that I think he worries that he does not have the stamina to deliver these long-winded speeches that he once did. He has a real heart, and then he breaks away and starts talking about Hannibal Lecter. I feel going into this with that hope and that fear of the moon that this guy is like, boy, I hope I don't make a fool of myself. The final outcome is the Hierophant, which is the oath. It's the sacredness. It's the Constitution. So even though he is a horrible candidate, he cannot take away from the sacredness of the ceremony.
Yeah.
It's
true.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
Here it is again. You see what I'm saying? This is what happened the other day when I looked at him. Mental confusion in the clouds, back and forth.
Yeah.
World leaders attend the event. World leaders attempt to work with him because, well, he is the head of the United States, hopes and fears, the presidency of the United States, which would be the emperor. Yeah. And then his final outcome, Trump, walks away in poverty, abandoned.
Whoa. That ties in with a lot of things you've been saying on other shows about how the GOP basically is going to look for a way to get rid of him.
They are going to get rid of him.
Yeah, because you know what? For one thing, he's a lame duck president. He is no longer the key to the future of the GOP party.
It won't work. It's not. Well, for a number of reasons, he's a lame duck. First off, he only has 4 years.
Yeah.
Secondly, even if he could theoretically get a third term, it wouldn't work because he's going to be 80. Even if he were to survive mentally, which is highly questionable, he'd be 82 years old.
Yeah.
He'd be running at 82. This is if he survived to 2028.
Exactly.
So that's unlikely. And so, if in the dog eat dog world of politics, I would rather bring in a polite fascist. If I'm a fascist, I would rather get rid of this guy and bring somebody in that can be polite and sweet and nice while still pushing the same policies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this guy is not helping us. He makes problems. He picks fight. He claims he's going to invade Greenland.
I know. He's destroying our reputation. Well, he did it once before. He's going to do it again. Destroy our reputation around the world. He's talking about taking Canada, taking the Panama Canal, taking Greenland. I mean, this is, dare I say it, like Hitler and Poland and dominating the world.
He's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
He just talks.
Yeah. Well, he's always been very good about distracting, doing these big, dramatic, over-the-top things to divert from what the real issues are, and that's certainly something we can go into.
Right. The other thing that people are talking about is, and it kind of segues into that, has to do with this civil war that's beginning to happen in MAGA and in the right wing, where the right wing is actually eating itself. It's like, what's the joke? You take the lion home and you can't believe that the lion ate your face. But you have to kind of wonder what's going on with somebody like Elon Musk, where he now picking fights with even conservatives in Europe.
Sure.
And so do you think that this also MAGA is referring to him as having a hostile takeover of the Republicans? So they're viewing him as it's already started that they have begun to view him as a hostile takeover of the Republican Party.
By this you mean Musk, hostile takeover of the GOP? Yeah, well, for one thing, obviously he's not an elected official, but he's starting to behave like he is one. And there are enough people saying, hey, wait a minute here. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're claiming powers you don't have. And I've been hearing even Trump has been getting fed up with Musk. But how much he can do. Well, I saw something today, some story on the internet, one of the news sources or his YouTube's, I forget which one it was, but they said, because Trump does not like relinquishing the spotlight. He wants to be always the center of attention. So when someone like Musk comes along and starts claiming all this attention, claiming all this power, even Trump, that's a little too much for him to take even. And there are reports that he's just getting a little fed up with it. Elon's been wearing out his stay at Mar-a-Lago.
Heard about that.
Tired of him. Yeah, like Trump, it's getting on his nerves. But I have talked about this before. A lot of rumors, a lot of beliefs that Elon has basically bought Trump, bought the GOP, and what can Trump actually do?
Well, here, this latest thing is that now he's begun to attack European leaders, even European conservative leaders. And the feeling is that you have the right-wing conservatives wanting to kick out Islamic extremists.
Yeah.
This idea that Islam is not compatible with Western values.
Yeah.
Bring in their own separate courts. Yeah. Sharia courts now are operating in Europe.
And did you see where Musk was even attacking the British Prime Minister over some news story from 10 years ago about sex trafficking and girls being groomed for this purpose?
Well, this is the conversation, what we are calling what's being called Nazis or right wing are real legitimate. What's also in the middle of that is real concerns that people have about immigrants, particularly immigrants from certain parts of the world where women are not people. And this naivety we have in the West, where because we'd like to believe that women are people in America, though lately I've been questioning it. I think as American women, we just assume that women are people all over the world, and women are not people all over the world. They're not people in Afghanistan. They're not people in most parts of the world. And so the concern is that when immigrants, I still have something there I can, the concern is that when immigrants come from parts of the world that may not share our values when it comes to democracy or women's rights, can those same person integrate into Western values? The great irony, can't integrating into European values or taking over Europe and turning Europe into changing it into having values that take away from women's rights, et cetera, et cetera. So this idea that we're seeing sexual assaults, et cetera, is it the same as, say, sexual assaults we're seeing from people who were born and raised in the United States? Or are we looking at a real problem with certain cultures? And the answer is that, yes, there seems to have been a problem. There appears that there were Pakistani gangs and Afghanistani gangs that were trafficking young girls. So that criminal elements were coming in.
Yeah.
So you have this bridge you have to cross as if you care about Europe, how can we not have prejudiced policies, but at the same time acknowledge that some of the people coming in may not share it may be conflict with, say, what was thought of as British values, the church, etc. And I guess the head of the Church of England has resigned as well.
I didn't realize that. Interesting. Was this recently?
Yes, the head of the Church of England has resigned, and I guess he was the Church of England's bishop. Is that right? And
because I understand that this is a story that goes back about a decade, but Musk was, through X, his big media platform, was just drudging all of this up again like it was a brand new story. And
it is a brand new story in the sense that it was covered up. The number of girls that had been trafficked by gangs coming out of Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc. We know that the third world, we know that the United States has a human trafficking problem. I'm sorry, one of my lights went to sleep. So, getting into a conversation about most of the time when you have, I'm just going to turn this on. Most immigration has been really great and it's been good for the country. But like anything in life, you can bring in criminal elements. So Archbishop Canterbury, the fact that they had covered up what the gangs were doing and it looked like possibly hundreds of thousands of kids were involved and the police did nothing about it. Archbishop Canterbury did resign. So this is part of the fight that Elon Musk is picking, where not calling these things out because you don't want to offend an immigrant community or something.
Right. But it's just interesting. Elon is acting more and more like he's the president, like he's a world leader in his own right. It's interesting that he's doing these things.
Mm-hmm. And let's go ahead and look at the future of the Republican Party over, say, the next year. Excuse me. Are we looking at civil war inside the Republican Party?
Wow. Well, I always have a card that surprises me when I see it. I'm getting the party is fighting for its survival.
Right.
Very survival right now. There were a lot of general things I got, like like community is obvious. That's the party, but loss, discontent, exhaustion, restriction. But that was the main thing that came out, survival. That's ultimately what's coming up. Now, I don't know if that applies directly to civil war, which I personally believe is going on, but it does seem like the party is increasingly heading toward imploding.
Do you think it can survive? Because I don't.
I have thought many times over the last few years, how can the party survive? And yet it just, like Trump, just keeps enduring, keeps going on and on and on. I think, when is this going to fall apart? How can this be sustained? My opinion is it is not sustainable. It can't last, but yet here it keeps on. Look, the Republican Party is very powerful right now. The House, the Senate, the presidency, and frankly, the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So, right now it looks very powerful, but I also just think there is so much underlying chaos right now, disorganization, strife, civil war. It's like all of this is going to be coming up in the next year. That's what I feel. And it should fall apart. What do you think, Whimsy?
I want to look, because strife, 8 of Wands, happening very quickly. So we could see strife happening really quickly. There's some kind of a legal action. I think that Elon Musk is going to get into trouble with, he's already in trouble with Europe, but this looks like they could pick a fight with him. Look at that, courts. And this just feels to me like the European courts coming out. I'm telling you, Elon Musk is in trouble. I don't know what happened, but he's facing. It's like they want to shut him down. Like, I can do whatever I want.
Well, that's it.
Money, I can do whatever. Oh, really? You think so? Well, the European courts and the World Trade Organization and the monetary, the people, World Monetary, all these funds, they want to have a little conversation with you, Mr. Musk. I mean, it happens very quickly. Legal action. The high priestess, a court case comes, take him out. So what Elon Musk is. It's as if the world is starting to think he's gotten so big, he's become a global threat.
Well, I think Elon is being a little too transparent right now. Here it is only 2 weeks before the election, and he's already acting like a world diplomat, like a world leader. He's already kind of being a little too cocky, a little too arrogant. And we're just seeing the very beginnings of this. I just don't think people are going to stand for it. He's not an elected leader, and enough people are going to say, hey, wait a minute here. And European leaders are definitely going to push back. We are already seeing it with how they responded to Trump today. The Canada, Denmark over Greenland, Panama. Oh, wait a minute here. You're not going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so continuing on, because we are trying to get to all of your questions, and boy, did we get a lot of really good questions. The next question is, people out of Canada said that I've had people really are upset. Let's go ahead and get into it. big conversations out of Canada right now has to do with the fact that Justin Trudeau has resigned. Any feelings about that?
I was sorry to see this happen, especially right now. It's such a vulnerable time for Canada, with Trump coming in and granted, it could be just a lot of hot air and hyperbole from Trump, but claiming he wants to make Canada the 51st state and saying he's going to do this through economic sanctions and possibly military force. I think that's BS, but that's what he's claiming. But it just seems like a very vulnerable time for Canada. But Trudeau seems to feel he is not going to be, he could not be reelected. He's very unpopular. It's kind of like Joe Biden, where I think he sees himself as more of a detriment to his party. And he wants to step aside, I guess, while there's still time for someone else. But I'd rather he had stayed on. I liked him, actually.
Do you think that the criticisms of Trudeau were legitimate? Like, he was blamed for stuff that I don't even think he had any control over. Like the inflation, that had a lot to do with COVID and trade wars.
Oh, sure, of course. Same thing with Biden. A lot of things he was blamed for. That we have to remember 4 years ago, the whole world was shut down. Our economies were shut down. We knew these things were going to happen. We knew it was going to take many years to recover from that pandemic.
Right.
The consequences. But people have forgotten.
I remember when Trudeau, he's been in politics for a really long time. What, over 20 years, right? I mean, he got in. He came in when he was barely an adult.
Yeah.
And remember Ivanka Trump's crush on him? Have you ever seen the pictures of Justin Trudeau and Ivanka Trump?
Yes.
What was that? Ivanka Trump, she left Jared. She did not go to Jared. What was the joke about that?
I don't know the joke specifically.
But she had such a serious crush on him that there were a lot of jokes about it. Like, she didn't go to Jared. She, she would look up at him like, ah.
Oh my.
And
you're making me think of a meme that used to circulate on Facebook. The caption was, "What an ass." And of course, he's an attractive man. It was a picture of his backside. And then the other picture was Trump. What an ass.
Yeah, she's got Jared. And then,
yeah.
If I were her, I'd dump Jared. Like, if I think about it, she could have, if you had a choice between this Jared or that guy, which would you take? I would totally take
be the first lady of Canada.
She was soft as butter with that boy.
It's so interesting because I read Barbara Streisand's autobiography last year. She came very close to being the first lady of Canada herself, because she was having an affair with his father, Pierre Trudeau. She admitted it in her autobiography. Yes, in her autobiography. Yes, she said they had a very heavy romance. I believe they were public about it, but she said she was seriously considering marrying him, putting her Hollywood career to the side and being the first lady of Canada. And then I guess she came to her senses,
Why would she have come? But he was a nice guy. I think Trudeau was a good guy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, she wrote beautiful things about him, but she was just saying she came very close to leaving her Hollywood career to marry him.
But she came to her senses because she didn't want to be famous?
Well, I'm saying that facetiously. She came to her senses, but I mean, she had one of the biggest Hollywood careers anyone has ever had, and she was willing to put that aside to be the first lady of Canada. And then I guess she'd say, no, I think I'd rather be a movie star. I don't,
Who is that? This was who again?
Barbara Streisand. It's in her autobiography.
Oh, Barbara Streisand. You know who I was thinking of? I was thinking of Barbara Walters.
No.
That was Barbara Walters?
Barbara Streisand, like butter.
Right. Like butter. Yeah. God, if I were her, I would have totally gone for it. But I don't know. What do I know? Okay, so I guess now we're supposed to throw on Canada. We're talking about a crush, but it's all right. Let's take a look at the future of Canada.
We're throwing on Canada. That sounds terrible.
Sorry, Lynn. Future of Canada.
Oh, I think Canada's going to be fine. Canada will endure, but I just got cards like Priorities, Bravado, and I got Grace. I think Canada's going to be fine. I
always get that too. I get great cards for Canada.
Yeah,
Canada,
very benign, very friendly.
Native land.
Yeah.
I just that love of Canada. She stands the high priestess. This is a loyal, brave Canada. The high priestess.
It's like Canada's been through much worse than this. This is nothing.
And then Ace of Cups. Love for Canada, and then hopes and fears. What will come of Canada. Strong judgment over Canada. Canada is filled with lots of wonderful people. It's not just one person. It's just like, even if the Conservatives got into power, it doesn't come out that no one person in Canada has the power to create the fear that the people of Canada might have in the event that a Conservative gets in, because this is such a broad, diverse community of people that I feel like they work it out. It just feels to me like they work it out.
Oh, one of my best friends lives in British Columbia. We talk all the time on the phone, and she said Canadians just think this is a big joke. This stuff Trump is saying and everything. She said, "Oh, please." We're literally and figuratively above all of this in America.
Trudeau is single. Okay, we got to get him together with Ivanka, because Ivanka's gotten out of politics. So maybe her and Trudeau can finally connect.
I didn't know he was single.
Evidently, he's single now, and that's probably a good thing. Yes, he can go and find true love. We want him to find true love. Okay, so what else is? Did we get to everything? I think that we are doing pretty well. So, Chuck, what do you think of the world of animals?
The world of animals? Well, I think animals are pretty special, and I love them. What's something about animals? They never lie. You always know where they stand. You know how they feel, and the love, the most unconditional I've ever known.
Yeah. Well, there have been some interesting studies, I don't know if you know this, about the effects of music on animals, particularly animals that have gone through trauma, that sort of thing. But here was an interesting experiment that was conducted by the Denver Zoo on the effect of giraffes on classical music. And different experiments like this have happened where people have gone out into the woods and played music, and then little woodland creatures will come out and try and listen to your flute or whatever you're playing. And so it's a fun little experiment that we can all do, is if you're ever in nature, sit down and play a musical instrument. I'm afraid I would attract like a polar bear or a mountain lion that would eat me.
Oh, you could charm a polar bear, Whimsy. I'm sure the polar bear would adore you. And
well, I saw this one film footage. This guy was out there. He was playing like some Irish flute. And within 10 minutes, there were like 100 raccoons, like squirreling, jumping up and down. So who knows what he was communicating.
Pied Piper, yes.
Yes, but it was bizarre because, what is the animal? What is the animal experiencing? So we're going to take a look at a couple minutes of this experiment with the Colorado Symphony and the Denver Zoo. And then we'll open up a floor and talk about this idea of animals as sentient, conscious feeling beings and their relationship with humans and our art. So let's take a moment to take a look at this.
this was an option. Never thought our classical career would be at the zoo.
We didn't know what to expect. We have played music for them before, but obviously having it live is way different. So we weren't sure if they would be nervous, if they would be excited, if they would get bouncy, which 1 or 2 times they did get a little bouncy, which is also a sign of excitement and fun. We didn't actually see any fear. They were all very cautious. The ones that were a little more nervous stayed in the back, which is what we expected. And then Dobby was the most curious out of all of them and came over multiple times to visit and get a good look at everybody.
I think they were really curious.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting to see them when they first walked out. They knew something was going on and they're really observant.
And when we were playing, one of them was leaning over a few feet from us, so that was pretty awesome.
It seemed like when we started the carnival piece,
the more active the music was,
they started
seemed
leaping.
to seem to react accordingly.
Dobby showed a lot of cool behaviors. He did seem to notice when there were changes in the music, and he started doing a little different behaviors. Sometimes he would kick, and sometimes he would just get on high alert to watch, which is another sign of excitement and interest. Obviously, he's a very curious guy, so he likes to come over for all sorts of new stuff. It was definitely worth it for us. I think we were just as excited as the giraffes were.
I'm glad they seem to like the music more than my dog.
Aw.
All right.
I want a giraffe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to take a minute to close the show today with that, because animals live in our lives. We have them in our lives. We have relationships with them, but I don't think we really sit and meditate on this idea that they are sentient, conscious beings with thoughts and feelings and emotions that are just as intense as ours.
Oh, yes.
And when you have these experiments where, for example, we'll introduce them to music, you see just how animals and humans are really pretty much the same.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. Far more evolved souls than we ever give them credit for. I often wonder, it's been even said about dogs and cats. Are they really angels that just disguise themselves in dog and cat fur to come here? Because I mean, in all seriousness, I bet you felt this way with Mila. Don't you feel like sometimes you're with an elevated soul?
I used to feel that way until I saw the way she tortured animals that she would capture, and how she would break the necks of mice and drag them around when they were still half alive. Oh. And there was this one mouse that was half dead, and it was on the porch.
Oh.
There was a field mouse that she had brought to me, and I'm like, "It's still alive!" Ah! And she looked at me like, "What's the problem?" And
it's just the circle of life.
And she walked over to this quaking animal, and she put her chin down like this, and went like that, and cracked its neck, and went a crack, and it was dead. She's like, "Is it okay now?" I'm like,
well,
"You're a psychopath."
Yes, I can attest to that. With
my cat was homeless. I
Siamese
found
here.
it on the street, and it used to, it came into the neighborhood. I would feed it, and but she was feral, and she would go around killing things and bringing it.
Oh, yes. Well, they think they're bringing us a gift.
Yeah.
You know that when a cat will have a mouse in its mouth and drop it at your feet. And, this is fun. I, of course, have a Siamese cat. I got her from a breeder of Siamese. And she was telling me that in old Siamese cats would actually go out and kill cobras.
Oh, really?
Like a mongoose. They would go for cobras. And sometimes they would bring the cobra in their mouth into the house and drop it at people's feet. The only problem was the cobra wasn't completely dead yet.
Oh, God.
Yes. You just made me think of that.
Well, do you have any quick before we close? Any positive messages for what you predict for 2025?
I mean, I know it looks frightening and chaotic on the surface, and I think a lot of people are justified in their fears. And I've said this before because I talk to a lot of your people, a lot of people who are in our audience. I hear this over and over all over the country. But increasingly, I'm hearing people also expressing hope because we realize this is a period where we have no choice. We've got to be in our personal power, stand up for ourselves, but we've also got to find ways to laugh, to be happy. We've got to get back to our basics here. And I'm sensing something very positive about this, almost like a renaissance, people getting back into their creativity. I'm finding this is true for myself. And if you hold any stock in astrology, a lot of astrologers are predicting really good things for a number of the signs this year.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah, so against what it looks like, I'm feeling optimistic and hopeful.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so the cards look like there's a lot of activity, contracts, innovation in the way of like saving the planet, lots of new green deals, that sort of thing. Oh, yeah, my sunscreen got into my eyes. Don't you hate when that happens? Ugh.
Yeah, I do.
Did you have fun today, sweetie?
Oh, I had a lot of fun. It was good to be back after 2 weeks.
Awesome. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Oh, yes, of course. It's time for the author interview already. This hour has gone by very quickly.
Oh, before we do that, is there any announcements that you want to make?
Well, today is the birthday of the great actress Butterfly McQueen. I know I've shown this before, but I thought it was appropriate. That's
wow.
portrait that I did of her.
Incredible.
You know, she, of course, was famous for playing Prissy in Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
But many don't know she was a respected actress on the Broadway stage. When she was brought out to Hollywood, she was not happy about playing the character, but she thought, okay, I'll go along with this because it'll lead to other things. Well, it didn't. She got typecast. And she said, I don't mind playing funny, but what I resent is playing stupid. So she always had mixed feelings about Prissy, but she went on to get her degree in political science in her 60s.
Oh, wow.
And well into her 70s, won a Best Actress Emmy. So she had quite a life. Anyway, I just wanted to shout out to Butterfly McQueen on her birthday and show my artwork here. And that's it.
And if anyone would like to commission Chuck to do a painting, he also is a trance medium and does spiritual paintings and messages for those who passed over. You can contact him at dransfieldchuck@gmail.com and reach out to him.
That's correct.
Oh my God, this is so annoying. And do you want to promote your channel?
Yes.
I'm getting this stuff out of my eyes.
You're cleaning this stuff out of your eyes. Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. That's my YouTube channel. I have a lot of archive videos. I'll get around to making some new ones someday soon, but I have lots of archive videos about Hollywood history. I Love Lucy, stories of Lucille Ball. And I still do my own live stream on Mondays, Chuck's Captivating Chat. Mondays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, there's my little plug, Whimsy. Did you get your stuff out of your eyes?
Yes, it was the sunscreen. So introduce our
well, yes, we would like to introduce, I guess, Whimsy, you've got the control board there. You'll bring them on. So, but we're going to introduce Richmond Burton, an artist and writer who has just written a book called Rolodex. And so there we are. Hey, Richmond.
Hi, Richmond. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, we loved your book.
I'm so flattered.
How does it feel to be at the taco truck with Whimsy and Chuck?
Feels totally natural.
Awesome.
I feel at home with you.
Oh,
well, we can attest to the fact that the tacos are good because we've had many of those tacos. But yeah, so this is a famous place in Los Angeles. I think everybody's eaten there, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. El Coyote.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, El Coyote goes back to 1931. Many celebrities. Elizabeth Taylor had her own table at El Coyote.
And
I always try to go there when I'm visiting LA. I love it.
Do you make it out there very often?
$2. They used to have $2 margaritas, and then the
Oh,
last
those
time
are gone.
then they became $5, and now I think they might be $7.
Oh, I think they're more than that. Last time I was there, I was shocked at how much the prices had gone up on the menu since the time I've been there.
They don't have the little thimble margaritas we used to get drunk off of.
Oh, I bet
They're fantastic. They would
I
go.
never thought of them as thimbles.
$2. $2. It was like a champagne glass.
Oh yes,
Do
yes.
these $2. $2. They sit her way again in Margaritaville. They always have these really bad mariachi bands. We'd be eating burritos. It was great.
Yes.
It was great. So that's the. So I'm glad you knew the. So Richmond, Chuck.
Yes.
How do we start this, Chuck? Do you want to go ahead and start the question?
Well, I actually have a very, very simple question. I have other questions here, but before the show, I said, what would you like to be asked? What are things you want to make certain we address? And you gave me a very simple question and then proceeded to give me a beautiful answer. And I said, let's save this for the show. The question is, why did you write the book?
To show how it happened. And people always ask me, how can they get their art career going? How can they show their art? How can they get in a gallery? How can they sell their artwork?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of doing a kind of nonfiction take on that, how to, I told a story based on my life and how it happened for me and people around me, other artists around me.
Yeah.
And the main character, Althea Bridges, is their #1 fan who helps launch careers and throws the best parties. By the way, Whimsy, I'm quoting you from your show the other day when you said, we throw the best parties. It's very important because people want to come to your parties, and that's where it all happens.
Well,
yeah.
We know from the art world, a lot of it is about wining, dining, and schmoozing. And partying, making connections. When I was in college at Virginia Commonwealth University, I was an art major. That one of the professors said they should teach a course on this. Actually should. But I just loved it because your characters are basically my tribe, my people. All my life I've surrounded myself with artists, actors, writers, musicians, dancers. You're all my favorite people. So it's fun to touch upon these characters.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. Yeah. Indelible characters, because we don't know, we can't do anything else. We don't have a choice.
That's true. I feel like, so a little bit about what this story is about. I mean, Richmond and Chuck can go ahead and join in, but it's about an art dealer, right? Althea, an art dealer out of New York, who I feel like my impression of her is that she's kind of codependent because she relies on people that she can't rely on. Yeah. I don't know, but is that true? Am I wrong about this?
That's a good observation.
I feel like she doesn't really have the strongest foundation here, folks.
Well, this is the art world.
It's true.
Yeah.
She seems solid compared to a lot of people in the art world.
yeah, exactly. So I guess my first question, Richmond, is Althea based on a real person?
Yes.
And why did you want to write about it? Why did you want to write about her? Are you Ethan?
Well, it was in my mind for a long time. Mainly, I'm a visual artist. I'm a painter. And then I went through a transition in my life where I moved from Long Island. I was in LA for a year. And then now I'm in upstate New York. So I didn't have a studio all of that time. So I was writing, and this really began to come together. But in looking back on, like several decades of being a professional artist, showing and being in collections and going to the parties and the openings and knowing all the people, I wanted to show, what people say about writing books, which is show it, don't tell it.
Right.
And I showed it. I changed the names. Some of the characters are altered from the real people they're based on. Some of them are combinations of several different people. But a lot of it is directly, I have a memory for detail and for dialogue and for what people say and for how things happen. So a lot of it is drawn directly from my experience. And I love what you're saying. I'm very flattered because I wanted it to seem real. And I felt like it was more immediate and effective in answering people's questions than saying, okay, so you need to get someone who's interested in your artwork, and then you need to do this, and then you need to do that, because it's always different.
Well, and also you brought the emotions to it. You brought the colors to it. It's not so cut and dried, that type of thing. And I think the artistic mind, at least most of the artists I know, usually don't have the attention span. A lot of artists have ADHD. They just don't get these conventional ways. But the way you approached it as a work of art, I think is much more accessible to these people. But, you mentioned dialogue and how much you love it, and you're for detail, because one of my questions was going to be, because I kept seeing a screenplay in this book, a movie, and I was going to ask you, how do you approach writing dialogue, and do you have any tips for crafting authentic conversation, because you did that very well, and I think other writers would love to hear your insight in that.
Anytime I could recall directly, I would write down in notes, and I worked on a canary, one of those yellow canary pads, handwriting.
Yeah.
And then slowly started to piece it together, and then eventually translate it into a tablet, with a keyboard. But as much as possible, I kept it the way people talk. This is the way I find people talk. It's either coming from my memory, or I'm reconstructing it or imagining it in situations that are close enough. And that's a big complaint I have about a lot of movies and a lot of books. And this is not the way people talk.
No,
they just don't talk like that.
It's a heightened reality, but you're right, it's not necessarily natural. You captured
and
very
edited
natural dialogue.
severely, because what I would do is edit out at least half of the description. That's what Whimsy was saying too, the kind of spare quality of the writing and the dialogue is because I just kept slashing it. Anything that wasn't totally necessary, I'd cut it out. And that's the way I like to write, but also that's the way I like to read. That's the kind of writing that I admire. You mentioned Joan Didion. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because your book was easy to read. For those very reasons, the way the conversation flowed. And that's why I wanted to ask you about the dialogue. You did it very well. And I was even going to ask you, have you toyed with the idea of making this into a screenplay? Because to me, it would lend itself to a movie.
Right.
The other question I wanted to ask you, what would be your dream cast? Because these are such rich characters you created.
Oh,
what are some of the stars, actors you would love to see playing these characters?
Well, Althea is originally English, but living in New York. So she's bridging those two worlds too, Europe and America. It's natural to say Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
And especially at the age she is now, rather than when I first started this book. I've always been a big admirer of her work. Has her basis in artistic cinema through Derek Jarman, and up to now, including the recent Almodovar movie, is very much like someone like Althea. Very well read, poised, and then all the other qualities you're pointing out too, which I love hearing, Whimsy, because I showed it. I didn't tell it. I showed it, like the psychology,
the vulnerability, the fact that I actually could really relate to her. Like, she's falling apart and she's just surrounded by all these people that are a fucking disaster. I'm sorry. Like that. I mean, like, and the conversations are just so, oh my God, yes. I mean, like, every freaking artist is being funded by things that are just so fucking horrible.
Oh, I know this world.
What's his name says, well, great, you can thank the Iraq War, and I'm close to the CIA. And they're, by the way, the war, basically, like, war magnets are funding your art. So you got to think, it's like, like, what am I reading? Like, but it reminds me of so many actors I know that would be just praying for a commercial. If I could just get a commercial to sell dog food, you know? And it's like, when I knew you back at the university and you were, oh, I'm a thespian, and it's like, and then you know, a year and a half of eating crap, it's like, it's a national commercial. I need to pay my rent. You know?
or I sell this painting for $50,000.
And
something like that.
I think there's an element, that kind of frantic, you know, that is something also I feel in this book. You know? Did you have any feelings? Did you want to say anything about that, Richard?
Yes.
And the humor, what you pointed out, which I so agree. There aren't enough comedies out there. Do you have trouble finding a good movie with just some lighthearted humor?
Yes.
Much less something that will make you laugh out loud. Everything is too serious these days. Could we please lighten up, folks? You know, even if it's about serious stuff, let's take a perspective that brings it up rather than down.
But you're so right about that. It is hard to find a decent comedy anymore.
I can't find one. It's ridiculous. I have to go back and watch earlier movies, like old movies.
Yeah, if there is something, it's usually like they say the F word 57 times or something. It's just a lot of cheap, lowbrow humor. And, you know, like I was watching Billy Wilder's The Apartment recently. I thought, why can't people why can't people write comedy like this anymore? Why don't we have these wonderful, clever, inventive comedic screenplays? It's I can't remember when I last saw such a movie. But
Billy Wilder was an amazing person.
Yes.
And he had that gift, the lightness and the playfulness of dialogue and creating characters and scenarios.
Yeah. Well, you have that ability yourself. That's why I'd love to encourage you to consider turning this into a screenplay. I think you've got a fertile movie here, possibly a play, if not a movie, but you're so good with dialogue and characters.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I'm looking for someone ideally to do that or to work with, because I don't have enough time to do everything. I mean, that's how this book hasn't really.
I'm sorry. Some of the dialogue is very funny.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just share it with us. What do you think? What are you laughing at?
Althea thought, I'm trapped uptown in corporate hell. She had been led to an empty house. I was just wondering if you would, did you want to, can you just give a synopsis of the book for people? And then it would be great if you could take a section and read it for the
please.
audience. Yeah.
Okay. It takes place in 7 days. I just kept simplifying it to make it easy to tell, but also easy to read, hopefully. 7 days in November of 1990 in Soho. Most of the action takes place in a loft, the way people used to have at that time. These huge, vast, 5,000 square foot, entire floors of buildings where you could have parties and make art, and things happen, and people can come and go, and you can,
and you could afford them.
It offers you so many possibilities in terms of creativity and socializing. And so it begins with 2 artists arriving from London. It's the beginning of the so-called YBAs, young British artists arriving in New York. And of course, they're very ambitious and they want to break into the art market. And then you have 5 or 6 other artists. You have 2 collectors. You have an art critic power couple. And, and then basically that's that cast of characters as they make their way through the next 7 days at parties at this loft. The hostess with the mostess, the force behind the scene of the art world, Althea Bridges, who throws the best parties that everyone wants to get invited to, but very few people are, where everything happens and where careers get launched. Art careers get launched. She's the force behind the scenes. Everyone in the know knows that. And then she gets scooped. because she doesn't have the money or the power to bring it into the big corporate galleries. Many parallels to our life, with corporations. Corporate galleries come along, and once she gets things going, they take whoever they want and they leave her, throw her under the bus.
Yes. Yeah, the vulnerability, the vulnerability, the fact that she, in a way, she doesn't really have anybody, like that she can really, that's going to save her. She's saving them. I mean, it's really horrible when you think about it. Did you have a section you wanted to read for us?
Yeah. Actually, because you surprised me again with that request, which I love. So I just opened it up. This is toward the end of the book. So why don't I just read this?
What page, if we want to follow along with you?
Page 264. And it's the opening scene. It's when she finally gets them into a show that she organizes at a corporate gallery. Right? And, as always, it's complicated and challenging and unpleasant, sort of. Not, it's not all glamour and fun. Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, please.
Althea scanned the crowd. Younger than most openings. Angry young men with lone wolf stares and wide-eyed young women wondering when and how they could be next. They looked at her artists with a mixture of admiration and envy. The truth was rarely stated that success comes down to the work. Most can't face the fact that their work wasn't ready for prime time. Oft-repeated excuses were encouraged by galleries that wanted to be the designators of importance. But even major galleries waited for younger galleries to get new artists started, then swooped in to cherry pick when they were ready. What they offered was a high-profile show and quote-unquote exclusive representation, which meant a verbal agreement that every sale had to go through them, whether they originated it or not, so they could get their 50% commission, as well as the names and addresses of all the artists, collectors, curators, and contacts. If another gallery, independent agent, or art consultant was involved, the 50% was divided between them. In tough negotiations, the artists could be asked to take another hit of 10 or 15% from their remaining 50%. The exclusive representing gallery, quote unquote, usually demanded a larger cut, 30 to 40%, and they were in the position to get what they demanded because they were in possession of the work. And the possession is 9/10 of the law. However, none of this was in writing, so there was lots of wiggle room. Only in the case of very established artists was anything in writing. Galleries were allergic to contracts. They preferred to reserve the right to dump an artist at any time. The artist was made to feel very lucky to be there at all because there was always another artist ready to show, which brought her back to an earlier thought. Those prickly issues of quality, talent, and just plain hard work. Not all art was created equal. Do you want me to keep going? Yes, a little more.
Yeah, maybe a little more. Yeah.
Althea imagined the place filled with water, full of bent legs and twisted arms struggling to dig out of the muck, stirring up the muddy bottom, entwined masses, undivided, half buried, digging out, some floating up, awkward, swimming, seeing the surface above, pulling, slithering up through the milkweed, getting out, breathing, shaking, walking, and then the net came down. Maybe she shouldn't have gotten John interested in art. Maybe Maybe she should have left him to oil and gold. But now he was hooked, and there was no going back.
Mhm.
Art is the one thing money can't always buy.
That's right.
Sometimes art is just not for sale.
Mhm.
And the minute it's not for sale, it becomes much more interesting. Hooked. She was going to have to manage him, distract him from the show, get him to the studios, start a collection, which could be an investment fund, etc. Give him the pep talk about being a force behind the scenes. Convert him further. You see, so there you have the core of it, what she did and what she does and how it works. And the amazing fact that galleries take 50%.
I feel like I'm not satisfied that Althea is happy enough towards the, I just scanned the end of the book today. Is there a chance that you'll do a part 2 and we'll see Althea finally happy?
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Well, I love that idea, and I think she could be. That's a whole thing to explore in itself. Because she is kind of in between. She's in between all these forces.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that you mentioned Tilda Swinton playing her. Now, I'm going to always think of her as this character because you're right. That's a perfect marriage of character and actor to portray. She would definitely play all of these complexities that Whimsy has talked about. She would capture it. And oh my God, when you're talking about the galleries and the 50%, welcome to my world. I've been there myself.
Yeah,
and that's what
he's
people.
A very, very successful artist. He's very modest. But I actually was going to ask you, Chuck, this question. When you looked at this book and you saw it, did it make you wistful? Did it make you think like? I mean, it seems to me like there's kind of an attitude here where there's nothing you can do about it. You kind of survive, and it's only worse. And I'm just wondering how an artist might interpret that. Is it just hopeless? You have to go off and do your own thing? Because it seems like as the book was progressing, everything is getting more and more horrible. Is that true? I mean,
I think, I think wistful is definitely a good word for it. I think, because I've pursued art off and on for the last 40 years. I mean, all of this, like talking about the galleries and the greed and how difficult, I always get this all the time. Why don't you put your work in a gallery? Like, I've never thought of that. Like people just don't get the complexities. So it brought up a myriad of feelings. But at the same time, I think because I've worked through a lot of it myself, it wasn't like it was upsetting to me to read this, but more I could vicariously just follow along and go, oh yeah, I know this world. I know these people. I concur. I'm still an optimist. I still hold on to hope. I always believe, that there's success around the corner. I'm looking at ways where maybe I'm not so dependent on others. I can create my own success more and more with my art. But I don't know if I answered your question, Whimsy, but there's a myriad of feelings.
I mean, I have a lot of emotions about it. I mean, I just think art should be something good and beautiful and positive and pure, but then there's this ugly, dark aspect, like who's going to pay for it? And artists, and the other thing is that artists don't know how to protect themselves.
That's
artists
correct.
Are among the most vulnerable.
And how could we? Because we're also serving ourselves. Our heart is open, and we're serving it up. So how can we protect ourselves and put our heart out there at the same time? It's the ultimate contradiction.
Well, I have this conversation a lot with actors here in Los Angeles. How you've got to hold on to your heartfelt, tender vulnerability, your emotions, your sensitivity, but you've got to be tough as nails and have armor around you.
Right, and that's
and those are the people who usually make it.
Well,
that's right.
I mean, they're going to eat Althea for breakfast. So the person who's, and why is she doing this at all? I mean, it makes me feel like none of the people she's helping appreciate her. I mean, do they really appreciate her? They're just out for themselves.
The way it plays out by the end is that they are probably open to, or even if they get grabbed up by the corporate gallery, which happened in reality based on this person she's based on, you know, the artist is not in a position of power where they say, you've got to cut Althea in. They can't make that demand either. They have to kind of go along with it, because so much of it is about keeping the artist in a state of disempowerment, you see. Everyone else, and then the corporations, which are the galleries in the art world, grab all the power and keep it for themselves. You know, which, so they're always, people are naive and they empower them, or they don't know better or whatever, like what you were mentioning, Chuck, which is something that I would hear for people all the time too.
Yeah.
People assuming that it's some kind of very easy thing to work out, or once you get into a gallery that it's all set. It's not at all. It's very Oz-like.
Not at all. Yeah.
It's very, very Oz-like, and it's always about how you can navigate these very treacherous, challenging waters. And most people can't do it, and that's okay too, you know. But I wanted to show that, and hopefully if you give someone like that the book, when they say things like that to you, it can give them a fuller understanding of the situation. You know, oh yeah, just like wave your magic wand and get a gallery and be famous, and everything's perfect forever and ever.
Right.
My
well, we wanted to thank you, Richmond, for being here, and of course,
thank you for having me.
Yes, and if you would like to get a copy of Rolodex, you can check it out where most fine books are printed. We got ours on Amazon. We got Chuck's on Amazon, and we have a couple of announcements before we close today. Dun, 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 dun. Our book next month, our book of the month has been selected for next month. Mazel tov. It's 1001 Nights. 1001 Nights by F.L. Kalb. I think I've got a nice little letter in here from Kalb. Is that right? Oh, I'll be sure and read that. Oh, yes. Aloha. Yes. All right. So listen, you guys. This is the book for the month of what are we in? We're in January now, right?
We're in January.
January, and I guess this will go until the first week of February. So check that out.
Okay.
Thank you, Richmond.
Thank you.
Write him another book so that we can have you back here.
Please do. Please do. It's been a great pleasure.
Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And I guess that's it for us. Everybody stay where you're at. And if you're trying to get in for a reading with me, of course, you can find all that information below. We're out of here. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.